My dad sold my college fund to buy his GF a sports car. His GF dumped him next month, and I forced him to pay me back in full. Now he's begging. Hey Reddit, grab your popcorn because this is one hell of a ride. My 22 male dad just destroyed my entire future for a woman who didn't even stick around. And now he's shocked, absolutely shocked, that I'm not letting him off the hook. Buckle up. So let me set the scene here. I'm Jake, and I've been working my ass off since high school to get into a good college. My mom died when I was 14 from cancer, and it absolutely wrecked our family. Before she passed, she made my dad promise, and I mean literally on her deathbed promise, that he'd take care of my education. She'd been setting aside money in a college fund for me since I was born, and by the time she died, there was about $78,000 in there. Not a fortune, but enough to cover most of a 4-year degree at a state school without drowning in debt. My dad, let's call him Richard, because that's his name, and I don't care who knows it, was a decent father when Mom was alive. He worked as a regional sales manager, made good money, and seemed to genuinely care about our family. But after Mom died, something in him just broke, and not in a normal grief way. In a midlife crisis on steroids kind of way. For the first year after Mom passed, he was just depressed. I get that. We both were. I was dealing with losing my mom while trying to finish freshman year of high school, and he was dealing with losing his wife of 20 years. We went to therapy together for a while, and things seemed to be getting better. Then he met Vanessa. Vanessa was 31 when they started dating. My dad was 48. Yeah, you read that right. She was closer to my age than his, and she was exactly what you'd picture when you hear gold digger. Bottle blonde, fake everything, and an Instagram account where she posted nothing but bikini shots and photos of expensive things she couldn't actually afford herself. I knew from day one she was bad news. But what could I do? My dad was a grown man, and he was clearly going through something. I figured he'd date her for a few months, realize she was using him, and move on. Wrong. They'd been dating for about 6 months when things started getting really weird. Dad started dressing differently. Tighter jeans, designer shirts, even got hair plugs. He traded in his sensible Toyota Camry for a BMW. Started going to the gym obsessively and posting cringy gym selfies on Facebook. My friend's parents were definitely talking about it. Vanessa moved into our house after 9 months of dating. Didn't ask me how I felt about it, just came home one day and her stuff was there. She immediately started redecorating, getting rid of all of Mom's things that Dad had kept. Photos came down. Mom's favorite chair that Dad had refused to get rid of? Gone. Donated to Goodwill while I was at school one day? I tried talking to Dad about it, but he just said, "You need to let go of the past, Jake. Your mother would want us to be happy." No, Dad. Mom would want you to remember she existed. Vanessa treated me like I was an inconvenience in her house. Never mind that it was my house, too, that my mom had helped pay for it, that I'd lived there my entire life. She'd make passive-aggressive comments about me leaving dishes in the sink or staying up too late. She'd reorganize the kitchen and then get mad when I couldn't find anything. She even tried to give me a curfew at 17 years old, like she had any authority over me. The worst part? Dad took her side. Every single time. When I was a senior in high school, I started applying to colleges. I'd been working hard, had a 3.8 GPA, good SAT scores, and was involved in track and debate team. I got accepted to several schools, including a pretty good state university about 3 hours away. The tuition was reasonable, and with my college fund, I'd be able to graduate with minimal debt. I was excited. This was what Mom had wanted for me. This was what all her careful saving had been for. That's when Dad sat me down for the talk. It was a Tuesday evening in March of my senior year. I remember because I'd just gotten my acceptance packet from state, and I was showing Dad all the information about the engineering program. He seemed distracted, not really listening, and finally he put the papers down and said we needed to talk about my college plans. "Jake," he started, doing that thing where he clears his throat like he's about to say something he knows I won't like. "I need to talk to you about the college fund." My stomach dropped. I knew. I just knew from his tone that something was wrong. "What about it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Well, the thing is, there have been some unexpected expenses lately and I had to borrow from it. Just temporarily. I'll pay it back." "Borrow from it?" "Dad, that's my money. Mom's money. For my education." I know. But it's just temporary. Vanessa and I had some things come up." "Vanessa? What does Vanessa have to do with my college fund?" He got defensive then. "She's my partner, Jake. She's part of this family now. And families help each other out." "How much did you take?" I asked, my hands shaking. He looked away. "About 15,000, but I promise, I'll put it back before you need it for tuition." $15,000? Dad, what the hell did you need $15,000 for? Turns out, Vanessa had wanted to renovate the master bathroom. Wanted marble countertops, a rainfall shower, heated floors, the works. And Dad had just given her my college money to do it. I was furious. We had a massive fight. I told him he had no right to touch that money, that Mom had specifically saved it for me, that he was betraying her memory. He told me I was being selfish, that I could take out student loans like everyone else, that he'd raised me better than to be so entitled. Entitled. He called me entitled for being upset that he stole my college fund to renovate a bathroom for his girlfriend. I didn't talk to him for a week after that. He eventually apologized, said he'd put the money back, and I foolishly believed him. He was my dad. He'd promised Mom. He wouldn't actually screw me over, right? Right? Wrong again. I graduated high school in June. Throughout the summer, I kept asking Dad about the college fund, about making sure it was ready for tuition payments. He kept assuring me everything was fine, that he had it handled, not to worry. August rolled around. Time to pay the first semester tuition. I asked Dad to transfer the money from my college fund to my checking account so I could pay the school. That's when he dropped the bomb. Jake, we need to talk. Those words again. Nothing good ever follows those words. We sat in the living room. Vanessa was conveniently out shopping. Dad couldn't even look me in the eye. The money's gone, he said quietly. What do you mean, gone? You said you put it back. You promised. I did put some of it back. But then other things came up, and I had to use it again. And then, well, the thing is, Jake, the fund is empty. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Empty? Dad, there was $78,000 in that account. Where did it go? He started talking fast, making excuses, but here's what it boiled down to. The bathroom renovation? $15,000. A vacation to Hawaii with Vanessa? $8,000. New furniture for the entire house? $12,000. Paying off Vanessa's credit card debt? $9,000. And the kicker? A brand new Audi A5 Sportback for Vanessa? $34,000 down payment. He'd spent my entire college fund on his girlfriend. Every penny. Money my mother had saved by clipping coupons and working overtime shifts as a nurse. Money she'd squirreled away for years to make sure I'd have a chance at a good education. Gone. All of it. For a woman who'd been in our lives for barely over a year. I couldn't even speak. I just sat there, trying to process what he was telling me. My future, my mother's legacy, my entire plan, destroyed because my dad was thinking with his dick instead of his brain. Jake, I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear. Sorry? You're sorry? Dad, you stole from me. You stole from Mom. She saved that money for me. I didn't steal anything. It's my money. I'm your father. I get to decide. No. It was in my name. It was a custodial account that Mom set up. You were supposed to be the custodian, not the goddamn beneficiary. Watch your language in my house. Your house? Mom helped pay for this house. And now you've let your midlife crisis Barbie doll redecorate it with my college money. That's when Vanessa came home. She'd apparently been listening from the hallway because she waltzed in with shopping bags from Nordstrom and said, "Oh, good, you told him." I turned to her. "You knew? You knew he was spending my college fund on you?" She shrugged. "Richard is an adult who can spend his money however he wants. Maybe if you'd been more welcoming to me, he wouldn't have needed to choose between us." Choose between? Are you fucking kidding me right now? Don't talk to her like that, Dad jumped in. Vanessa is right. I'm an adult, and I made a decision to invest in my current life instead of the past. The past? You mean your dead wife? My mother? That stopped him cold, but Vanessa kept going. Look, Jake, I'm sorry your mom died. That sucks. But life moves on. Your dad deserves to be happy, and I make him happy. If you can't support that, then maybe you need to figure things out on your own, like the adult you claim to be. I looked at my dad, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to tell her she was out of line, but he just stood there, silent. That's when I realized I'd lost my dad too. The man who'd raised me, who'd promised my dying mother he'd take care of me. He was gone. All that was left was this hollow shell being puppeteered by a woman young enough to be his daughter. I went upstairs, packed everything I owned into my car, and left. My best friend Marcus's parents let me crash in their spare room. They knew my situation and were appalled by what Dad had done. But here's where the story gets really good, folks. Remember that shiny new Audi Dad bought for Vanessa? The one he used $34,000 of my college money as a down payment on? Vanessa dumped him exactly 5 weeks later. Turns out she'd been cheating on him with some guy she met at her gym. A personal trainer, because of course it was a personal trainer. The guy was 26, ripped, and didn't have a teenage son reminding her that she was dating someone old enough to be her father. Marcus's mom told me because she heard it from a neighbor who worked with Vanessa. Apparently, Dad came home early from a business trip and found them together. In his bed. In the bed he'd shared with my mom. In the house they'd redecorated with my college money. The divorce? Oh yeah, they'd gotten married in a quickie Vegas ceremony, another thing he'd paid for without telling me, was swift and messy. Vanessa got the Audi in the settlement because Dad had put it in her name. She also got half the value of the house because they'd been married and she'd contributed to the household. Contributed. By spending my college money. Dad tried calling me after she left. I didn't answer. He left voicemails crying, saying he'd made a mistake, that he was sorry, that he needed me. I deleted them without listening to the whole thing. Meanwhile, I was working 3 jobs trying to save enough for community college. Forget state, forget the engineering program. I was washing dishes at a restaurant, working retail, and doing overnight shifts at a warehouse. I was sleeping 4 hours a night and living on ramen and coffee, all because my dad chose a woman he'd known for less than 2 years over his own son, over his dead wife's wishes, over basic human decency. But I'm not a quitter. I'm my mother's son. So I buckled down, saved every penny, and started at community college in the spring semester. It wasn't my dream school, but it was a start. And I was paying for it myself, so no one could ever take it away from me. I didn't talk to my dad for 8 months. Radio silence. He tried everything. Emails, texts, showing up at Marcus's house. Marcus's dad told him to leave or he'd call the cops. Even trying to friend request me on Facebook. I blocked him on everything. Then my paternal grandmother, Dad's mom, called me. She'd heard about everything, and she was livid. She told me Dad had no right to touch that money, that my mother would be ashamed of him, and that she'd talk to a lawyer friend about my options. Turns out, what Dad did might have been legal depending on how the account was structured, but it was definitely morally bankrupt. And depending on the specific type of account and how it was set up, there might be legal recourse. Grandma helped me find a lawyer, a good one who did some work pro bono for cases he found particularly egregious. This guy, let's call him Mr. Harrison, took one look at my case and the documentation I had, including emails from my mom about the college fund, bank statements, and even a video my mom had made before she died specifically talking about the fund being for my education, and said we had a solid case. See, the account was technically a UTMA account. My mom had set it up correctly, with very specific documentation that it was for my education. Dad was the custodian, but the money belonged to me, the minor. When I turned 18, the account should have been fully turned over to me. Dad had fiduciary responsibility as custodian, which meant he was legally obligated to use the money for my benefit, not his. He'd violated his fiduciary duty. Big time. Mr. Harrison sent Dad a letter, a very legal, very intimidating letter, explaining that he had violated his fiduciary responsibility and that I was prepared to sue him for the full amount plus interest and damages. Dad called me immediately. First time I'd heard his voice in months. Jake, please, you can't do this. I don't have that kind of money. The divorce took everything. You should have thought about that before you spent my money on your midlife crisis. I'm your father. You stopped being my father when you chose Vanessa over me, when you stole Mom's legacy, when you broke your promise to her. I'll lose the house. I'll lose everything. Good. Maybe then you'll understand what you did to me. He tried the guilt trip, said I was being vindictive, that I was trying to destroy him, that families forgive each other. I told him families also don't steal from each other, don't betray dying wishes, and don't choose trashy girlfriends over their own children. We went to court. Dad had to sell the house Mom had helped pay for, the house I'd grown up in. He had to liquidate his retirement accounts early and pay penalties. He had to get a loan from his parents, which was deliciously ironic, since Grandma co-signed specifically so I'd get my money back. In the end, the judge ordered him to pay back the full $78,000 plus 6% interest for the time I would have had it invested, which came out to about $82,500. He also had to pay my legal fees, which added another $8,000, $90,500 total. The judgment stated he had to pay it within 12 months or face further legal consequences. He had to set up automatic payments from his paycheck. His credit was destroyed. He had to move into a small apartment in a bad part of town. He drives a 10-year-old Honda Civic now. And you know what? I don't feel bad. Not even a little bit. I took that money and I'm now attending State University. I'm a year behind where I should have been, but I'm here. I'm studying mechanical engineering just like I always wanted. I have an apartment near campus. I'm not working 3 jobs anymore, just one part-time job to cover living expenses, and I actually have time to study and sleep like a normal college student. I'm living the life my mom wanted for me, the life she saved for, the life Dad almost destroyed. But the story doesn't end there, Reddit. Oh no, because now Dad is big mad that I actually followed through. Last month he started sending me emails again, begging me to forgive him, saying he's learned his lesson, that he's broke and struggling, that he can barely afford his rent, that he's eating ramen every night. Oh, the irony. That his own son destroyed his life over money. Over money. Like it wasn't about the betrayal. Like it wasn't about him pissing away my mother's memory. Like it wasn't about him choosing some woman he barely knew over his own child. He had the audacity to ask if I'd consider giving some of the money back now that I have it. Said he's struggling and I'm doing fine, so surely I don't need all of it. Said I'm being cruel by watching him suffer. I wrote back, "You watch me work 3 jobs and sleep 4 hours a night. You watched me give up on my dreams because you chose your dick over your son. You broke a promise to a dying woman. You chose Vanessa, and she chose someone else. Those were your choices. These are the consequences. I hope every payment reminds you of what you did." He didn't respond to that. But last week I got a call from my aunt, Dad's sister. She laid into me about how I'm destroying my father, how he's not the same person anymore, how he's depressed and struggling, and it's all my fault. I told her the truth, that I didn't destroy Dad. Dad destroyed himself. I just made sure I didn't go down with him. She called me heartless. Said my mom would be disappointed in me for treating my father this way. That's when I snapped. My mom? You want to talk about my mom? My mom died making sure I'd have a chance at a good life. She worked overtime shifts while fighting cancer to put money in that college fund. She made Dad promise on her deathbed to take care of my education. And he took that money, her legacy, and he spent it on a woman who dumped him 5 weeks after he bought her a sports car. So don't you dare tell me what my mom would think. My mom would be ashamed of what he did. I'm just making sure her sacrifice wasn't for nothing. My aunt hung up on me. Haven't heard from her since. Dad's mom, my grandma, called to check on me after she heard about the family drama. She told me she's proud of me for standing up for myself. She said Mom would be proud too. That made me cry for the first time in months. My dad tried one more time last week. Showed up at my apartment building. I don't know how he got the address. I saw him from my window, looking pathetic and old, standing by that beat-up Honda Civic in the parking lot. I didn't go down. I just watched him stand there for 20 minutes before he finally got back in his car and left. Marcus asked me if I felt guilty, if I regretted going after him so hard, if I thought about giving him a break. The honest answer? Sometimes. Sometimes I see him struggling, and I remember the dad he used to be, before Mom died, before Vanessa, before everything went to shit. I remember him teaching me to ride a bike, and coming to my track meets, and helping me with algebra homework. But then I remember finding out my college fund was gone. I remember the look on his face when he told me he'd spent it on Vanessa. I remember him taking her side over mine, again and again. I remember working 3 jobs and wondering if I'd ever get to college at all. And I remember my mom. I remember her in the hospital, sick and tired and dying, making Dad promise to take care of me, making him promise to make sure I got an education. She knew. She knew something might happen, that Dad might fall apart. That's why she set up the fund the way she did. And he did it anyway. He betrayed her final wish. So no, I don't regret it. And I won't give him a break. Some bridges deserve to be burned. Update 1. Okay, so things have escalated, and I'm honestly shocked at how brazen my dad has gotten. Last week, he created a GoFundMe. Yes, you read that right. A GoFundMe. The title was something like Father Struggling After Family Legal Battle, Need Help Recovering. He wrote this whole sob story about how his son, that's me, had sued him after he'd made some mistakes with money, and now he was destitute and needed help getting back on his feet. No mention of why I sued him. No mention of stealing my college fund. No mention of Vanessa or the Audi or the broken deathbed promise. Just poor him, the victim of his mean, vindictive son. A mutual friend sent me the link. I was furious. He was literally trying to crowdfund his way out of facing consequences for his actions. So I did what any self-respecting person would do in the age of social media. I told my side of the story. I posted on Facebook, after unlocking my profile temporarily, with screenshots of the court documents, my mom's emails about the college fund, and even that video of my mom talking about saving for my education. I explained exactly what happened. How he spent my entire $78,000 college fund on his girlfriend, how his girlfriend dumped him 5 weeks after he bought her a sports car with my money, and how he'd violated his fiduciary duty as custodian of my UTMA account. I ended with, "If you see a GoFundMe for my father, please know that he's not struggling because of legal fees from a vindictive son. He's struggling because he stole his dead wife's money that she saved for their son's education, spent it on a woman who didn't stick around, and now has to face the consequences of his choices." The post went semi-viral in our community. Within 24 hours, it had been shared over 200 times. People who'd known my mom were commenting about how appalled they were. My mom's former co-workers from the hospital shared it with messages of support for me and disgust at my dad. His GoFundMe raised $320 before he took it down. I'm told he got absolutely roasted in the comments before he deleted it. Then his friends started getting involved. I got messages from several of his longtime buddies, guys who used to come over for poker night, guys who'd been at my parents' wedding, guys who'd known me since I was a kid. Most of them were supportive. "Your dad fucked up, Jake. You did the right thing. Your mom would be proud of you for standing your ground. Sorry you had to go through this, kid." But a few, mostly the divorced dads who were dating women way too young for them, funny how that works, tried to defend him. Everyone makes mistakes. He's your father, you should show mercy. Family is supposed to forgive. I had the same response for all of them. Would you forgive someone who stole from you? Would you forgive someone who broke a promise to your dying spouse? Because that's what this is. It's not about money. It's about betrayal. None of them had a good response to that. Meanwhile, Dad doubled down on his harassment. He started calling my friends, trying to get them to convince me to do the right thing and give him a break. He called Marcus so many times that Marcus finally blocked him and threatened to file for a restraining order. He even tried to get to me through my professors. Showed up at the university, claiming there was a family emergency, and tried to get the dean's office to pull me out of class. The dean's secretary, bless her, asked what the emergency was. When Dad couldn't articulate anything specific, she told him to leave, or she'd call campus security. He left, but not before making a scene in the lobby about how his son had abandoned him in his time of need. The secretary called me later to give me a heads up. She was very kind about it and asked if I was okay, if I was safe, if I needed campus security to be aware of the situation. I appreciated that more than she'll ever know. I filed a police report. Not for anything criminal, yet, but just to have documentation of his escalating behavior. The officer who took my report asked if I wanted to apply for a restraining order. I said not yet, but I'd keep it in mind if things got worse. Things got worse. 2 weeks ago, I came out of my 9 a.m. lecture to find Dad sitting on a bench near the engineering building. Just sitting there, waiting. "Jake," he said when he saw me. "Please. Just 5 minutes." "No, Dad. We have nothing to talk about. The court made its decision. You're paying back what you stole. That's the end of it. I'm your father. You're a man who broke a promise to my dying mother. That's all you are to me now." Other students were starting to stare. He was getting louder, more aggressive. I turned to walk away and he grabbed my arm. "Don't you walk away from me." I yanked my arm free. "Don't touch me." A campus security officer who'd been nearby saw the altercation and came over. "Is there a problem here?" "This man is harassing me," I said. "I'd like him removed from campus." Dad tried to explain that he was my father, that we were just talking, that there was no problem. The security officer asked me point blank, "Do you want to talk to this man?" "No. I want him to leave me alone." The officer escorted Dad off campus and told him he was no longer welcome there without my explicit permission. If he came back, he'd be arrested for trespassing. Dad was yelling as they walked away. "You're going to regret this, Jake. You can't treat your father this way. I'll die alone because of you." That shook me more than I wanted to admit. Not because I felt guilty, I didn't, but because I realized how far gone he really was. This wasn't grief. This wasn't regret. This was entitlement. He genuinely believed that being my biological father meant I owed him forgiveness, regardless of what he'd done. I called Mr. Harrison, my lawyer, and asked about getting a restraining order. He said we had enough for a case, especially with the campus incident. We filed the paperwork that afternoon. Dad was served a week later. I wasn't there, but I heard about it from Grandma. Apparently he had a complete meltdown. Crying, yelling, throwing things. Called Grandma and screamed at her for turning his own son against him. Grandma told him, "I didn't turn Jake against you. You did that all by yourself when you stole his mother's money. You made your bed. Now lie in it." Then she hung up on him. The restraining order hearing is next month. My lawyer says it's pretty much a slam dunk given the documented harassment and the campus incident. Dad will be legally required to stay away from me, my home, my workplace, and my school. Part of me feels bad about it. He's my dad. He wasn't always like this. But then I remember that he made his choices, and I'm just making mine. I'm choosing me. I'm choosing my future. I'm choosing to honor my mom's memory. And if that makes me the bad guy in his story, I can live with that. Update 2. The restraining order was granted. Dad didn't even show up to contest it. His lawyer filed paperwork saying he didn't oppose it, which surprised me. Maybe his lawyer finally talked some sense into him about how bad this looked. The order is good for 2 years, with the option to renew if needed. He has to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my apartment, my workplace, and campus. No contact of any kind. No calls, texts, emails, social media, or third-party messages. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. But then my dad's girlfriend contacted me. Not Vanessa. Apparently there's a new girlfriend now. Let's call her Monica. Monica is 35, seeing a pattern here, and apparently has been dating my dad for about 4 months. She sent me this long Facebook message introducing herself and asking if we could meet to talk about the situation with your father. I almost deleted it, but curiosity got the better of me, so I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near campus. I brought Marcus with me for backup, just in case this was some weird ambush. Monica seemed normal. That was what surprised me most. She was dressed professionally, spoke articulately, and didn't immediately strike me as another Vanessa. "Thank you for meeting with me," she started. "I know this is awkward, and I'm probably the last person you want to talk to." "You're right about that," I said. "So why are we here?" She took a deep breath. "Because I've been hearing your father's version of events for 4 months now, and something about it never added up. He painted you as this vindictive, greedy kid who sued him out of spite. But the more time I spent with him, the more his story started to crumble. So I did some digging." She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots. Screenshots of my dad's emails to her, where he'd lied about the whole situation. Screenshots of conversations where he'd admitted, to her, that he'd spent the money on Vanessa. Screenshots where he called me a burden and said he was glad I was out of his life, because now he could finally enjoy himself. "I found court documents," she continued. "I found your Facebook post. I talked to mutual friends. And I realized your father has been lying to me since day one. Not just about you, about everything. His finances, his past, his relationship with Vanessa. All lies." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I'm leaving him," she said simply. "And because I think you deserve to know that you're not crazy. Your father is a narcissist who cannot take responsibility for his actions. He will never admit what he did was wrong. He'll always be the victim in his own mind." She paused, then added, "And I wanted to apologize. I didn't know the truth when I first met you here, but I knew enough to know I shouldn't have gotten involved with a man who treats his own son this way. I'm sorry." I didn't know what to say. This woman, this stranger, had done more research and shown more integrity than my own father. "Thank you," I finally said, "for telling me, and for believing me, I guess." She nodded. "One more thing. Your father's been talking about declaring bankruptcy. He thinks if he files for Chapter 7, he can get out of paying you back. I don't know if that's true, but I thought you should know." My blood ran cold. I thanked Monica, got her contact information in case my lawyer needed to talk to her, and immediately called Mr. Harrison. The good news, my judgment is likely non-dischargeable in bankruptcy because it's based on fraud and fiduciary misconduct. Debts arising from fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, or willful and malicious injury generally can't be discharged. The bad news, Dad could still try, which would mean more legal fees and more fighting. Mr. Harrison filed a motion to protect the judgment. We're prepared to argue that the debt arose from Dad's fraudulent breach of his fiduciary duty as custodian, making it non-dischargeable under bankruptcy code. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to live my life. I'm in my second year at State now. I made the dean's list last semester. I joined a study group with some great people who are now my friends. I even started dating someone, a girl from my thermodynamics class, who thinks it's badass that I stood up to my dad. Life is good. Really good. For the first time since Mom died, I feel like I'm on the right track. But every time Dad pulls something new, it's like reopening an old wound. I thought the restraining order would end it. I thought he'd finally give up and leave me alone. I should know better by now. Final update. So, a lot has happened in the past few months, and I figured I owed you all a final update since you've been following this mess from the beginning. Dad did try to file for bankruptcy. He filed for Chapter 7, claiming he couldn't afford to pay me back while maintaining his basic living expenses. His lawyer argued that the judgment was a financial hardship that should be discharged. My lawyer, Mr. Harrison, went to war. He presented evidence that the debt arose from Dad's fraudulent breach of his fiduciary duty, a duty he had to me as custodian of my UTMA account. He brought up emails where Dad admitted he knew the money was for my education. He referenced my mom's video and documentation. He showed the pattern of spending on Vanessa, rather than on necessary expenses. The bankruptcy judge was not impressed with my father. In her ruling, she stated that debts arising from fraud, embezzlement, or defalcation while acting in a fiduciary capacity are non-dischargeable. She found that Dad had violated his fiduciary duty to me when he spent the money for his own benefit rather than mine. The debt stood. Dad's bankruptcy was granted for his other debts, credit cards, medical bills, etc. But my judgment remained in full force. He's still required to pay me back. After that ruling, Dad finally stopped fighting. He stopped the harassment, stopped trying to contact me, stopped the dramatic ploys for attention. I don't know if he finally accepted that he lost, or if he just ran out of energy. Either way, the payments keep coming. Every month, like clockwork, money gets deposited into my account. He has 7 more years of payments left. Monica, remember her, actually became a friend of sorts. She checks in occasionally to see how I'm doing. She told me that after she left, Dad briefly tried to win her back with gifts and promises, but she knew better by then. She's dating someone new now, someone age-appropriate and emotionally healthy. Good for her. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.